there, good afternoon. Welcome to Transfer Talk. Manchester United are set to have a busy couple of weeks. Will Alejandro Garnacho leave the club before the deadline? Matheus Cunha is yet to sign a new deal at Wolves, but now at least two Premier League clubs are interested in signing him this month. Brentford won't entertain a bid from Nottingham Forest that falls well below their valuation for forward Yohan Wissa. And there is some big news in the WSL this lunchtime as Chelsea agree a world record fee for a defender. We'll tell you who that is in just a moment's time. Well, good afternoon to you at home, to Sam Abasaki, Dan Bardell and Statman Dave. How are we all doing this lunchtime? Still good? Yeah, OK, brilliant. Right, we're going to start with Manchester United. Said a minute ago, it could be a very busy period over the coming weeks. Let's go live to the club's training ground and speak to our reporter, Ben Ransom. Ben, great to see you. So much to discuss, but let's start with Marcus Rashford. What's the latest?
Yeah, we saw Marcus Rashford training today with the rest of his teammates. Obviously, his representatives have been very clear that he's been working really hard in training, and we saw him today out there on the training pitch. But, as we know, he's not been involved in Manchester United's squads in the last few games. Ruben Amorim taking him out, and the suggestion is he's going to have to work his way back in to that starting lineup. And, of course, all the noise continues about whether he's still going to be here when the transfer window closes. Now, what we do know is that Marcus Rashford's representatives have been out in Europe speaking to the clubs. We know that yesterday they were in Lisbon speaking to representatives of Barcelona about a move there. Now, the noises from Barcelona at the moment is that their priority is to re-sign players that they need to get their PSR regulations, their financial fair play regulations sorted before they can think about incomings. So what that means is it's a bit of a wait and see situation with them. We also know Borussia Dortmund have approached Manchester United about the terms it would take to agree to a loan deal for Marcus Rashford for the rest of the season. But there's an understanding, I think, that the finances there might make that difficult. So it'd be fascinating to hear from Ruben Amorim today whether there's an update on Rashford's situation, whether we can expect him to be involved in that Europa League game against Rangers tomorrow night at Old Trafford.
Yeah, just wonder as well, Ben, if there's going to be an update on Alejandro Garnacho. It feels like he's a wanted man at the moment by Napoli, maybe even Chelsea as well in the Premier League. Do you think we could see him leave the club this window?
Yeah, Garnacho was out training with his teammates today, and it's a similar situation in the sense that the beauty of this deal from a United's point of view, if someone's able to match their valuation of the player, is that it will be pure profit set against their PSR commitments, I suppose. So because he's come through the academy, if they can get anything between 50 and 60 for him, that can go into the pot for United to strengthen. So what it would do is open up a number of options for them potentially to be able to bring players in, because of obviously, as we know, PSR for United, like many clubs in the Premier League, making transfer dealings very tight in this window. Now, as we understand it, Napoli and Chelsea both interested in Garnacho. Napoli, our colleagues in Sky TV have been telling us are looking to do a deal at around €50 million. United looking for something like £55 million. So you can tell, obviously, there is a discrepancy there in the valuations. Clubs need to come a little bit closer, I think, for that deal to be done. Say the finances involved could be something that unlocks United's ability to sign any players in this January window and bring them in to help strengthen Ruben Amorim's squad.
Yeah, and what's been said about incomings then? Any sign of any players coming to the club?
Well, I suppose the closest sign is the fact that we've seen photos of the Manchester United Director of Football Negotiations, Matt Hargreaves, out in Milan. He's been speaking with Lecce representatives about Patrick Dorgu. Now, he's a left-back. He's a player that United value at around 25 to 30 million pounds. Now, Lecce want a bit more than that, and I think our understanding is that if they don't edge up on that valuation, edge up on that potential offer, then no deal will be done in this window. But you can see why United are looking to strengthen in the fullback positions. Left back, left wing back, an area where Ruben Amorim, the club, have identified they would like to bring a body in if they can. And that sort of money as well, when you consider what I've just been saying about the Garnacho potential deal going out, that's the sort of money that is feasible. But Obviously, still plenty of way to go on that particular deal. And we also know that United are exploring options across a number of positions. We've spoken many times about whether this squad is suited as it stands to the sort of football, the style of football that Ruben Amorim wants to play. So hopefully the Manchester United manager, who's been quite honest, I think it's fair to say, in recent weeks, hopefully he'll give us a little bit of an insight into where they are with some of those deals when we speak to him. As you can see, the press conference room well set here at United's Carrington training ground, and we'll be expecting to hear from the Manchester United manager and alongside him Harry Maguire from around 1:15 this afternoon.
I look forward to hearing from both of them. Ben, thank you very much. Guys, we'll get on to the sort of potential outgoings in a moment, talking about the likes of Rashford and Garnacho. But Dan, just on, he was talking there about, you know, the need for sort of a number of positions really, but it's pretty obvious that they need to bring a left back in this window.
Yeah, for Amorim's system, they don't really have players that are fit for that role. They've got players that can play on the left-hand side, but I wouldn't say any of them are natural left wing-backs. And then obviously there's been issues with fitness as well around some of those players. They're not going to be able to make wholesale changes in this window. January is never a great window to do that anyway. But I think they're going to have to prioritise. And it seems like Amorim has prioritised left wing-back. You could argue there's other areas that need filling as well, but I think it's pretty clear from watching Manchester United that they don't have anyone that's fit for purpose in that role right now. So making a new signing there is what he's decided is the priority. And
just sort of listening to what Ben was saying there about Rashford and Garnacho, who are both, you know, training today, does it feel now that it is Garnacho who's most likely to leave in this transfer window after all this talk about Marcus Rashford?
Yeah, I think because Rashford's deal will probably be more complex, but it's interesting to see that the wingers are the players that are being linked with moves away, knowing that, you know, the Antonys, the Rashfords and the Garnachos are the players that you thought, mainly Garnacho and Rashford, that you think that they would, you know, mould the team around because of what they've done in previous years. But it's clear that United are really trying to get behind what Amorim's trying to do with his system. You know, he's mainly used to 2-10s. You know, they've got Mount, they've got Eriksen, Kobbie Mainoo, those players that can play in that position as well. And maybe he's realised that those wingers aren't mainly suited to that position. Doesn't work in the 10, doesn't work when they're playing wing back. So it makes sense for them to move them on. And I think Garnacho's move is probably easier to do.
Well, Dave, this morning, Good Morning Transfers, we spoke about, I suppose, United's point of view and where Alejandro Garnacho could sit if he stayed there. But tell us why Napoli want him.
Well, I've done some more homework.
Good.
Emma, you're lucky
like
about that. And we've got some more numbers to kind of go through right now. And this is the rank in the Manchester United squad of Alejandro Garnacho in the Premier League. And this is a key competition for Manchester United. And a big reason why clubs are interested, the Napolis of the world, the Chelseas of the world, is the statistics are very good. I think one of the things that we forget about is Garnacho is still 20 years old. One of the stats that we brought out last week was players under the age of 21 in Europe's top 5 leagues. Garnacho has been directly involved in more goals than any other player in all competitions. But just looking at the Manchester United squad in terms of goals and assists in the Premier League, 20 already, ranking him third behind both Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford. Similar with shots, key passes, fifth in the squad, so something, part of his game he needs to improve. We've seen him beat players time and time again, look to shoot rather than slip a ball to maybe Erasmus Højlund or find a player on the back post. But moving to shot creating actions, progressive carries, these are all things you want your wingers to do, and Garnacho is number one in the squad for both progressive carries and carries into the penalty area for Manchester United. This is something that we're not really seeing under Ruben Amorim, that if Garnacho does stay at the football club, something that he can improve there, but also his dribbles, mentioned before, into the final third, drawing fouls. But more importantly, that last one at the bottom, tackles in the final third. I think Garnacho is quite active in that first action when defending, especially high up the pitch. And that's something we saw in the FA Cup game recently against Arsenal, where he robbed the ball, basically created a goal for United. So I think Garnacho is obviously a player that has got massive potential. And for 55 million quid, it's difficult for Manchester United not to accept that bid because of PSR and the left wing back that we previously spoke about.
Yeah, really interesting. Anything sort of surprise you looking at that, or the other way, or opposite of that, in contrast, and not at all?
No, not really. I think it just shows what a good footballer he is, and Dave's right to call out that he is only 20 because he's been playing for the last few years. You do tend to forget he got in at such a young age to begin with. I think if you were to write a list of Manchester United's top 5 best players, to put it simply, I think he would probably be in there.
Sure.
But I think the problem is for Manchester United is, if they're looking to reshape the squad, how many sellable assets do they have within that squad that are also dispensable? Doesn't mean Garnacho's not a good player. it just means that, you know, there will be interest in him and they'll make that pure profit on him. So that's the reason that they'll be looking to sell him, not because he isn't a good player. And it's the Napoli thing that really, really intrigues me. I think Manchester United fans would hate to see him stay in the Premier League and playing for someone else. I think that would be really tough to watch. I think it's a more acceptable loss if he's to go to Serie A and play for Napoli. And obviously with him being Argentinian as well, you know, Napoli have had a famous Argentinian player in their past, haven't they?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I mean, Ben spoke there saying ultimately they want to get between 50 and 60 million, and that would be pure profit, of course. That's United then. Tottenham, meanwhile, struggling for form at the moment, and the pressure is mounting on Ange Postecoglou. Well, Jamie Weir is at the club's training ground for us. Jamie, lovely to see you. Tottenham looking for a forward, like a lot of clubs are at the moment. Tyler Dibling's name keeps coming up. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, Tottenham looking for a forward, so let's talk about an 18-year-old midfielder. It is a name that keeps coming up for Tottenham, Tyler Dibling, and there is interest in Tyler Dibling. They've shown they're not afraid to sign young players. They've done it with Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray, have both been thrown straight into the first team given the injury situation at Tottenham at the moment. Tyler Dibling is a player that they're interested in. I think they would face stiff competition from a lot of other clubs for Dibling as well, however, and he is also injured at the moment, so he would certainly have a lot of company in the Spurs treatment room. Whether he could find space in the Spurs treatment room is another matter at the moment. I don't think it's the answer that Spurs need at the moment. They need some fit bodies, experienced Premier League players through the door at the moment, and they do, as you say, Emma, need a forward, and made no secret of the fact that they are after a forward this month. In terms of players returning, the news is that a couple of hours ago we saw a player, Spurs train ahead of their game against Hoffenheim tomorrow. Christian Romero was out on the grass, as was Rodrigo Bentancur, so both of those will be a sight for sore eyes for Spurs fans. Romero's been out for a while since that Chelsea game when Spurs went 2-0 up and then threw it all away, and Bentancur suffered that sickening concussion against Liverpool in the first leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final. So those are two players who will hopefully be back in the very near future for Tottenham, but not only do they need signings, they need some healing waters here at Spurs as well.
Well, talking of that, I mean, pressure seems to be growing on their manager as well. How pivotal are the next few weeks for Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, do you know, Emma, I think a lot of people from the outside looking in are saying, oh, there's a lot of pressure on Ange Postecoglou. I think he would tell you that's a lot of external noise. And inside the club, they're not happy with the situation at the moment, but they know what they're trying to do, and they realise that there are extenuating circumstances at the moment. When they went to Everton on Sunday, they literally had 11 outfield players to choose from. One of them is Richarlison, who's only just returning from injury himself and isn't 100% fit. Those players that are quote-unquote fit are all absolutely exhausted as well, because they've pretty much been playing 90 minutes twice a week for the last 8 weeks or so, and players playing out of position, the likes of Archie Gray playing at centre half and things like that. So there are pretty extenuating factors at the moment for Spurs. The respite for their terrible league form has been the Cups. They are still in all 3 Cup competitions, and 4 of their next 6 fixtures are in the Cup. So I mentioned Hoffenheim tomorrow evening in the Europa League, who are in even worse form than Tottenham at the moment. They won at the weekend. That was to get themselves out of the Bundesliga relegation zone. So it's a real meeting of 2 of Europe's out of form sides tomorrow in the Europa League. Then they've got Elfsborg tomorrow week. They know that if they win those 2 games, they will finish in the top 8 of the Europa League group stage and avoid that dreaded round of 32, which would mean 2 extra games that Spurs at the moment could really do without. In between those 2 Europa League games, they've got Leicester in the league, and you would think that anything other than a win this Sunday at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the fans would be growing very restless indeed. Brentford then away at the beginning of February, and then back-to-back domestic cup fixtures. The second leg of that semi-final against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. Remember that they've got that slim 1-0 advantage from the first leg, and then away to Aston Villa in the FA Cup 4th round. So some respite from their league form in terms of those cup competitions over the coming weeks. And look, yes, there is pressure on Ange Postecoglou. There's pressure on any managers at all. But the situation that Tottenham find themselves in the moment, it really is. They are down to bare bones. There are so few players to pick from, and those players that are playing are just exhausted from the sheer relentless fixture congestion that Spurs and all other clubs have had to deal with as well. So we'll be speaking Ange Postecoglou a little bit later on this evening in Hoffenheim in Germany ahead of that Europa League fixture tomorrow night, and I'm sure he'll be asked all the same questions about whether Spurs are looking to bring players in, whether he's feeling the pressure, and I'm sure that he will answer them in a typical Ange Postecoglou fashion.
Whatever that means. Jamie, thank you. All right, there is loads still to come, including news of a world record fee in the WSL. Plus, could Matheus Cunha be on his way out of Wolves? Hello, welcome back to Transfer Talk. We have some big news in the WSL this lunchtime. Chelsea have agreed a world record fee with San Diego Wave for Naomi Girma. Anton Tolui can tell us more. Anton, great to see you. It's been a while. Haven't seen you for some time. Look, this is a huge statement of intent, isn't it? It feels massive for the WSL.
Yeah, it's huge for the WSL. It's huge for Chelsea, there are very few players on the planet that Chelsea think that could come in on day one and improve their starting 11. Naomi Girma definitely fits the bill. And I think it's really exciting, isn't it? Because we're talking about a player that's an Olympic champion, just 24 years of age, that could potentially get better and better. But obviously, we're talking about teams now looking to invest in top-tier talent and bring them over to the UK. This obliterates the British transfer record that was set by Chelsea just a year ago when they signed Mauro Ramirez. When they signed Mauro Ramirez for initial £385,000, rising to just over 425,000, as you see there. That top figure was a new world record. That world record has been broken twice since then. So obviously Chelsea, if they want a player that's seen as one of the best on the planet in her position, they have to spend big to do so. And that's exactly what they're doing. And they've not been afraid to do that in the past, Chelsea, have they? Because when they went out and signed Sam Kerr, they got over in free agency, but it was on a league-leading contract in the WSL. And obviously the Ramirez deal shows that they are prepared to spend big when they see a player that they think can improve their team. And remember, Chelsea not just looking to continue their domestic dominance, they're also looking to win the Champions League. That's what Sonia Bonpastor was brought in for, and that's why Naomi Girma will be here.
I mean, you say there, Anton, they want to bring in, players that can improve the team. Tell us a little bit more about her. What will she bring?
Well, look, I'll just use the words of Emma Hayes, her coach for the USA. She says she's pretty much the best defender that she's ever worked with. And that's high praise considering who Emma Hayes has worked with over the last decade plus at Chelsea. Casey Stoney took to social media last night. She was Girma's coach at San Diego before Casey Stoney got fired last year. And she said, look, I'm really excited about seeing how good this player can be. Girma was the first player selected in the 2022 NWSL draft. She was named not only Rookie of the Year that year after her first professional season, but also Defender of the Year. She's a two-time US Defender of the Year, basically. She, like I said, she won the gold medal. She was a huge part in that team that won in Paris for the USA. She's one of the few players at the World Cup in 2023 when USA went out early that came out with much credit. She was the standout performer when USA struggled on the biggest stage of all. So, look, she is seen as a fantastic player, with only 3 seasons of professional football under her belt as well. A player that's only going to get better. Coaches rave about her. I'm one of those people that really can't stand player comps when you compare her to other players, but she has sort of that Van Dijk sort of element about her. You can't get around it easily. Her athleticism, her reading of the game, her poise, she's so calm on the ball. She knows exactly where she needs to be at the right time. She really is a rock that Chelsea will look to base their defence around. And it's not bad, is it, when you can plug her into next to someone next to Millie Bright as well. Chelsea are looking to spend big now as well, because obviously they've lost Khadija Buchanan for the season with an ACL injury as well. But Girma, remember, hasn't played a game since December, so she will be a little rusty. Don't expect to see her in the next couple of weeks. She only reported for pre-season training in San Diego yesterday, but she will fly into the UK for a medical as Chelsea look to make the biggest statement of this transfer window so far.
Yeah, what a statement indeed. Anton, thank you so much. Lovely to see you. Right, just to bring you some breaking news coming out of Brentford this lunchtime, and Michael Coyote is travelling to London for a medical with the club this afternoon. Brentford have agreed an initial loan with Fiorentina for the right-back with a £13.5 million option to buy him in the summer. So a little bit of news coming out of West London this lunchtime. Michael Coyote travelling to the capital for a medical with Brentford. Right, let's move on to talk a little bit about Matheus Cunha now. Nottingham Forest, among a number of clubs interested in a move for the Wolves player. Cunha has been offered a new contract, but is at the moment, we understand, considering his options. Mentioned Nottingham Forest there. Arsenal also interested in signing him. Dave, I think just off the season he's had so far, I mean, you can see why he is so sought after. Yeah,
he makes things happen, and that's very unique in football. He's a special player, capable of the brilliant long-range shots or beating 3 or 4 players and putting the ball in the back of the net. And we talk about this season, his 10 goals and 4 assists so far. But if you drill into the numbers over the last few seasons, he's constantly improving in terms of his goals per game. This season's at 0.54, the best of his career in the Premier League so far. So obviously, if you're scoring goals, you're a special talent, teams are going to be interested.
Yeah, talking of teams then, so I've mentioned Forest, Arsenal as well. Where does he fit better?
It's a difficult one to answer that because I'm not sure he's a natural fit in either of their current systems, but he's obviously a fantastic player who's been unbelievable for Wolves this season, given their struggles as well to have had the output that he's had. You know, he's having a fantastic season. Arsenal, I'm not sure if, again, he's that natural centre forward. If he goes to Arsenal, is he the guy? Is he a number 9? He's probably not. And then at Forest, they'd have to slightly change how they play. I think if you look at Arsenal, they'd have to, if he was to play in one of the wide positions, they'd have to have fullbacks that bomb on, and Arsenal don't really play like that. So I'm not sure he naturally fits there. I think the number 9 position, weirdly, is where he would fit because they can't really play with the number 10 because of Ødegaard kind of plays that role, even though he's an 8, he's more of a 10 naturally. And then for Forest, I'm just trying to think who would drop out of their team for Cunha to get in, and it's difficult. Maybe playing a bit more narrow from that left flank. He obviously fit the number 10 role perfectly, but Morgan Gibbs-White plays there, so it would be a case of maybe you'd have to shift Morgan Gibbs to the left-hand side. You'd be moving a lot around.
Loads of questions. Where are your answers?
No answers from me.
I've got an answer.
Right, go on.
I think Arsenal will be a really good fit for him. I think Nottingham Forest, like you said, their team are quite settled with Hudson-Odoi, you know, Wood, Elanga on the right-hand side, and then Gibbs right behind. I think Arsenal, in terms of the way teams set up against them, they need tools sometimes to just switch things up a little bit. And what we've seen is when they are trying to do that, it seems like it's quite samey, and teams are starting to clock, okay, if Martinelli switches with Trossard, they're not getting too much different. I think Cunha is a player that is tactically versatile. He's scored from every position he's played in for Wolves, and in the last few weeks we're seeing him get a bit frustrated with how, you know, things are going with Wolves. So I think, like you said before, it would be a breath of fresh air for him to have a new challenge, not necessarily start week in, week out, but be in a team that are, you know, challenging for the titles and trophies.
Yeah.
I like Statman's shout earlier of Manchester United because their system actually does fit Cunha completely, but whether they'd be able to do that off the back of a big sale, I'm not sure.
That would be the issue, and I think it does fit. It naturally fits. I think with these other teams you mentioned, it's where does he play? Do we have to adapt the system? Whereas Manchester United play a similar system to Wolves did under Gary O'Neill, and Vitor Pereira has played at the start of his tenure with a back 3 with 2 number 10s. So it kind of makes more sense Manchester United, but then it's, as we mentioned previously, the PSR side of things. How does that work out? United are probably could even lose 3 attackers.
Yeah.
So there's got to be someone that comes in, and a player that's been directly involved in 33 goals in the last 2 seasons in the Premier League. It's a great record. So it's building on that. It's figuring out where he fits in. But looking in at the start of the window, Omar Mamouche should have been a player that I was sort of Arsenal should have gone for him in terms of what he could bring their side. And, you know, Cunha is a similar player to that. So even playing as a, you know, next Kai Havertz is almost in a 4-4-2 shape defensively. Obviously a lot of movement around that, but that means Ødegaard's going to be a bit deeper. And his impact has already dropped off a little bit this season from a creative sense. So, again, there's a lot of questions here. I've added even more.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, we wanted answers, guys. Kind of asking you for answers. Right, coming up very shortly, we're live to Rio de Janeiro to speak to South American football expert Tim Vickery. Could Neymar be set to return home to Santos?